is Wokeness Ruining Media is a video I did pretty early within the history of my channel. I like to say I was still fairly new to content creation and was still figuring out my branding at the time before what I settled with this. Looking back, it was not my greatest video, even though I still majorly agreed with how I presented my arguments and my thoughts and opinions. The reason I say this is because I guess it was too vague in an attempt to make my stance on this overdone culture war bullshit. Surprise, surprise, as you've seen from my other videos, turns out I'm a pretty liberal / progressive person. And because of that, I've seen other creators / comments condemning me over my ideals, even though I haven't said anything too crazy yet. There's one thing about niggas, and niggas are gonna dick eat, regardless. It's just a natural law of the universe. So back to the prior topic, there's actually two creators here on the platform who actually responded to my video. First being the Spud Boys, who I tried to set up some sort of debate or conversation over the video because I always see the value in a productive conversation, and of course they ducked. But a new challenger arose at the plate, and we have Alex the Critic, and I really hate this nigga Alex. For what reasons? Reasons that you wouldn't assume, but I will get to that later. Usually I would have a script pre-written prior to my recording so I can articulately present myself within my videos, but for this one, no, we're going at this raw. I never seen a creator try so hard to straight up move the goalpost, misrepresents my arguments, and just straight up lie to prove whatever claim he's talking about. But first time for everything. Now, let's get into the video.
Hey everybody, Alex the Critic here, and welcome to the latest episode of Cancerous Commentaries, the series where I rip apart stupid videos that I found on the internet. Today's victim is a thankfully short video titled, "Is Wokeness Ruining Media?"
So, quick interjection. Peep how my original video was around 10 minutes and Alex's response video was damn near an hour. For a frame of reference, usually when I do a response video, it tends to be double the runtime of the video I'm responding to. For example, if I'm responding to a 10-minute video, I would like to give 10 minutes worth of commentary. So Alex, I pray that this 40 extra minutes of runtime better be necessary.
Before we get started, I've of course got to set up the context behind my discovery of this video. The creator of this wonderful little essay is a media reviewer named A Little Reviewer. I had no idea who this guy was before now, because contrary to what my detractors may say, I do not spend all of my free time trolling the internet for leftist videos to respond to. In fact, I tend to stay away from leftist creators to spare my own sanity. So, how did I come across this video, you ask? Well, a fellow media reviewer named KinoFlex, great guy by the way, you guys should check out his stuff, reposted a link to a video he made recently, which was a response to call-ins centered around his defense of AI. Because I personally don't care for either side of the AI debate, but this guy's art style and channel branding was pretty inviting, I decided to scour through his channel for something else of his to watch. That's when I came across this absolute gem, and once I saw the word wokeness in quotation marks, I knew I was in for a stupid take.
Okay, a lot of things to address right here. First off, holy KinoFlex mention. Despite being politically opposed to each other based on our content, you can obviously tell that I'm more left-leaning and he's more right-leaning. But despite what brain-dead political niggas on the internet tells you, it's totally possible for two people to be on friendly terms to disagree. We're not friends, but we're on friendly terms. How I like to describe it is that we tolerate each other's existence. And funny enough, how I actually met KinoFlex is that I actually recommend him to react to a video made by Type 2 Productions in which they try to critique Invincible, in which they try to peddle the anti-woke bullshit as a critique against the series. And even though I respond to a portion of the video that I disagree with, KinoFlex actually responded to the whole thing. And as a person who also likes Invincible, and I think he is a better reviewer than me, and he did a great job debunking it, and I think you should check it out. 2, you proclaim to be a media reviewer, but you don't care about the use of Gen AI in the media industry? That's kind of concerning. saying. Your entire response video is all about why I'm wrong on my judgment on how wokeness isn't ruining media, meaning that you think wokeness is ruining media. But when it comes to generative AI, how that might pose a threat to the media industry, you don't care? So it makes me ask the question, do you really care about the quality of the shows and movies you watch, or do you want to bitch and moan every single time you see a left-leaning nigga? And last but not least, you literally said that after you saw KinoFlex retweet my video, you was interested in my channel because of my branding and aesthetic. Thank you, I appreciate that. So it's beyond me why you picked a video that does not have my current fucking aesthetic or branding. I literally use a different sprite and background for that video. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is that my regular viewers are unaware not only of this video, but how I presented myself back then, meaning that you went beyond plus ultra to suck a nigga's dick.
Unfortunately, my gut instincts were right. So KinoFlex, if you're watching this video, let me just say this. I know you hate Colin, but getting the opportunity to dunk on him should not be enough justification to elevate morons like this. It's time to start vetting who you platform, alright buddy? That was a joke, that was a joke. KinoFlex is a grown-ass man. He can repost whoever the hell he wants. And just because he reposted one guy's video doesn't mean that he agrees with everything the guy says. Nevertheless, all of the pain that I'm about to go through is technically KinoFlex's fault. So if he is watching this video, then I expect some form of compensation after I'm done here. Anyways, enough dicking around. Let's get into the video.
Wokeness is ruining media, said actual brain dead people.
I'm not sure you want to go around calling other people brain dead when you slur your words like a retard. If somebody asked me to do an impression of a stereotypical mentally disabled person, I'd talk like this.
Surprise, surprise, the nigga with a speech impediment struggles to speak. It's as predictable as you being in your family's kitchen every 2 fucking hours to eat. I knew me speaking is gonna be the biggest hurdle when it comes to content creation, so I do try my hardest to proofread my scripts, edit down any mistakes, and simply become a better narrator over time. And compare my recent video to my first video, I think I made a jump in quality. It's funny, you claim that I slur my words, but you have yet to show a clip so far when I actually slur my words. And Alex, you criticizing how I speak in my video is kinda fucking comical, my nigga. You prolong your words every last syllable for no fucking reason. No one speaks like this. And it gets so much worse from here. It's 2025 and I'm still seeing folks complain about wokeness in TV shows, cartoon, animes, and video games. Like, can we let it rest already?
Yeah, it's a little hard to take an insult like brain dead seriously when you sound like the kind of person who needs to trace their finger along the words of their script in order to record it.
Okay, first off, lucky fucking guess, because the clip you sold is just my natural speaking voice. I do sometimes use my finger to read my scripts. Yes, only because I have my scripts on my second top monitor and I don't wear my glasses despite how I show myself in my videos, so I literally cannot see the words that I'm reading off the fucking screen. And let me say this, the way that my content is constructed revolves around my ability to articulate myself and how I present my arguments, aka my voice does play a role in how the general audience engages with my content. And even though I'm not at the level I want to be when it comes to my narration skills, I still managed to outpace you and gap you in fucking sub count and beat you in every possible analytical category. So for a nigga who don't know how to speak correctly, for my first 3 years of content creation, I'm sure the hell doing better than you, someone who's been on this platform making content for the last 10 fucking years. And do not hit me with the I do YouTube as a hobby. 10 years of ass is still 10 years of straight fucking ass. And for those who are wondering why does this all matter, it doesn't. That's the art of dick eating. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, talk to me nice, my nigga. What exactly are you mad about? Oh my god, they're not only just adding one gay character, they're adding 2. This stuff should never be in a kid's show. I don't want this liberal DI agenda affecting them. Gang, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, but please shut the fuck up. You are crying about a non-existent issue.
Ah yes, the shut up and ignore reality argument. Clearly this is a sign that we're dealing with a high-level arguer here.
Yes, because my opinion is based on the objective, fundamental facts of the universe we live in. And if anyone dares to have an opposing opinion, will suffer the wrath of my immeasurable intelligence. But in all seriousness, that reality line threw me the fuck off. We are talking about a topic that pertains to the entertainment industry with opposing perspective. There is no absolute truth within this fucking conversation, just two differing opinions. I know why. The dude in the back knows why, but you don't. And if you don't know why, I guess you got some soul searching to do.
Listen, nigga, I'm not here for your lame comedy routine. Just get to the point.
You're a non-black person calling me nigga, and yet I'm lame. And it's not the fact I'm mad that you called me nigga. I live in Florida. I am used to fat Mexicans saying the N-word. That unironically describes half of my friend group. I'm not even trolling. It's funny how prior you critiqued how I speak within my videos, but you don't even have a natural sounding nigga. When you say nigga, it sounds like you're forcing it. When you say nigga, it feels like you're pandering. When you say nigga, it feels like a white boy from the fucking suburbs trying to be edgy for the first time on Reddit. Actually, let's do a fucking contest. Dear viewer, who has a better sounding nigga? Alex or Pokimane?
Listen, nigga.
Cause only lame niggas say that shit.
This was a gag, but no, she generally, Kirk fried the fuck out of you. And it's not just your nigga. When you call me the R slur, it felt weird. Like, is this your first time? Did you even mean it for real? It was simply not quite my tempo. But don't worry, you're doing great for your first time. I'm fucking lying. But what exactly am I talking about? Everything. I'm talking about everything. Race representation, race swapping, gender swapping, shows with LGBTQ themes, all that good stuff. These are all nuanced issues that need their own videos. Even now I'm working on this channel actually, so stay tuned for that.
Oh god, you're telling me that there are more stupid videos that I'm gonna have to respond to in the future? That's just great. As if I don't already have enough on my plate.
First of all, you having enough on your plate, let's be honest, big dog. The word enough and plate can only exist if the word not is somewhere there, and we all know where. And what was the last part?
Oh god, you're telling me that there are more stupid videos that I'm gonna have to respond to in the future?
You literally do not have to do anything. You're doing this based on your own fucking free will. That's why I can't stand you anti-woke niggas. You swear to fucking God you're on this fucking moral crusade to debunk any and every liberal/leftist talking point. But don't pretend to be this fucking victim as you literally cry on camera. As a person who makes response videos as well, as it becomes one of the core content I make on this channel, the act of a creator purposely going out their way to watch a nigga they know they personally disagree with for the sake of content and bitch about it is literally sick and twisted. It'll be fine if you viewers were adamant in requesting you to respond to my videos, but they're not. But before we continue, what does it mean to be woke? Woke is one of those words that got horribly bastardized because of brain-rotted political discussions.
He's kinda got a point there. That's why, to avoid running into this exact problem, I provided my own definition of the word woke many moons ago, which I will play for you guys right now. Woke is anything which pushes a far-left ideology at the expense of the well-being of general consumers and/or people. And as for what far-left ideologies means, it's anything which seeks to destroy or displace accepted cultural and/or political norms. You know, capitalism, biological differences, sexual boundaries, things of that nature.
I actually commend Alex for providing his own definition of the word woke so I can better understand how he's using that word, but with all definitions, it's not absolute. But of course, I still have contentions with it. First, his qualification what he considers to be far left.
It's anything which seeks to destroy or displace accepted cultural and/or political norms.
Just because something is culturally or politically accepted to be the norm doesn't make it fucking right. And going against what's considered to be the political and cultural norm doesn't make that position inherently left. You're telling me as a white-leaning individual, there's nothing that's considered culturally and politically accepted that you personally disavow, whether you like it or not. Homosexuality is a culturally and politically normalized practice. And judging off this video, you are personally personally against that. And since you're trying to displace accepted cultural and political normality, by your definition, you're far left. And let's not stop there. Let's look at one of the examples you provided.
You know, capitalism, biological differences, sexual boundaries, things of that nature.
So let's focus on sexual boundaries. Judging off your Twitter, you live in Texas. The age of consent in Texas is 17, and to my knowledge, you're around 27 years old. So you're telling me that you, as a 27-year-old old man, will be against raising the age of consent from 17 to 18 in your state because it goes against what's considered to be culturally and politically accepted within your state? Let's take this a step further. If I were to drop you in the fucking Civil War, am I led to believe that you wouldn't join the Confederacy? Because up until that moment in history, slavery was considered culturally and politically to be the norm. And let's touch upon the second half of your definition.
Woke is anything which pushes a far-left ideology at the expense of the well-being of general consumers and or people.
How do you personally go about defining and gauging the level or expense of the general well-being of the consumer? As we all know, as soon as it hits June fucking 1st, every company out the ass switched their logo to be LGBTQ related. Now, is a company changing their logo for a short period of time really affecting the well-being of the general consumer slash person? Is the quality of the product not being affected? This practice alone is generally considered to be woke. So within the given definition you provided, it doesn't encapsulate that practice.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a succinct and understandable definition that mostly lines up with how people on both sides of the political aisle use the word woke.
Your definition of the word woke does not align on how both sides of the political spectrum use that word. It only aligns on how the right-leaning side usually use that word. Looking again at your current definition of the word, with the latter half being at the expense at the general consumer slash person, this entails that woke has a bad connotation because you believe something bad is happening to people. So why will a person who personally identifies with being a far leftist not like it if a company appeases to their personal political ideology?
Surely this fine gentleman won't contribute to the very problem that he is currently complaining about by trying to ascribe a defunct definition to the word, right? Just play the clip.
Always some anti-woke dude talking about wokeness, never the woke folks themselves.
And that's a problem. Why? Seriously, what does that even mean? Anti-woke people only discuss the ideas. They never discuss the people behind the ideas. Alright, if my position is that I'm against rape, is my position invalid just because I haven't talked about specific rapists?
What the fuck are you even arguing against? I never once insinuate that anti-woke people need to speak about woke people themselves specifically. Let's run that shit back. Always some anti-woke dude talking about wokeness, never the woke folks themselves. It's always a anti-woke dude talking about wokeness, not a woke person themselves. What I'm referring to is how every anti-woke YouTuber or internet personality, they all seem a lot more obsessive over the ideals of being woke, taking an opposing position of being anti-woke. It comes to a point where that individual gets obsessive, where all logical arguments, rationale cease to fucking exist, all in an effort to destroy your metaphysical enemy. Let's use you as an example. Alex, earlier you said this.
Because contrary to what my detractors may say, I do not spend all of my free time trolling the internet for leftist videos to respond to. In fact, I tend to stay away from leftist creators to spare my own sanity.
Then you went to contradict yourself with this following statement.
Oh god, you're telling me that there are more stupid videos that I'm gonna have to respond to in the future?
Or a nigga who claims to not spend his free time going over people he ontologically disagrees with, you do, for a fact, spend your free time going over videos of niggas you disagree with. This image right here fully encapsulates what it means to be an anti-woke YouTuber. But what does that really mean? Defined by Merriam-Webster.
I'm sorry, what the fuck did he just say?
Defined by Merriam-Webster. Defined by Merriam-Webster. Defined by Merriam-Webster.
Listen, I know that I don't pronounce words perfectly all of the time, but at least with me, I have the presence of mind to record more than one take for my lines, and I speak clearly enough to where you don't have to constantly rewind my videos to understand what the fuck I just said.
Yeah, because you do it for us.
After listening to this part of the video dozens of times over, I figured out that what ALR is saying is defined by Merriam-Webster as. I have no idea why this nigga didn't re-record the line. There is no way that he heard that in the editing room and thought to himself, yep, this sounds comprehensible.
Listen, I don't have 10 years of YouTube content creation under my belt like you do, and I still consider myself as a new, inexperienced creator. Within my 3-year-long stretch of being a YouTube content creator, I barely made 100 videos. So of course, my earlier content would have way more mistakes compared to my recent content. It's almost like I'm learning how to do better as I keep moving forward.
Anyhow, let's finish hearing out his point.
Woke is being aware or actively insensitive to important societal facts, issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. So within this given definition, why do people use it like it's a slur?
Probably because that's not what people mean anymore when they use the word woke, retard.
The definition you provided for the word woke is how people who are more politically aligned with you use that word in these conversations. It's almost like words are contextual and change their meaning depending on who's saying the word and how it's being said within that given sentence or conversation.
Yes, woke originally meant being conscious of the unjust power structures you live under. But as with many words, it adopted a new definition, which Merriam-Webster puts thusly: politically liberal or progressive, as in matters of racial and social injustice, especially in a way that is considered unreasonable or extreme. For the love of God, Merriam-Webster even has an entire article going over the history of the word and how it's since taken on a new meaning, which I'll link in the description below for those of you who are curious about it. Kinda interesting how you completely ignored all of this and instead ran with the first definition they listed, isn't it?
No, it isn't. There's nothing strange or weird using a definition of a word that correlates with your argument. Like I said earlier, a word can have a different definition depending how you're using it within a given circumstance. The cultural acceptance of a definition of a word hinders on the usage rate of how that word is being used within a given sentence. Something that Merriam-Webster explains when a word like woke garners a new meaning while its previous definition is still being consistently used. The newer definition does not usurp the previous definition. This one word can carry many different definitions depending how it's used. And I love how you paint the picture like the article was right speaking there when you look up the definition of the word woke without noting that the article was just linked discreetly. I don't know about y'all, but if you want clarification on a definition of a word, do you read every single fucking article that word is linked to in any dictionary? Probably not. But since you're so dead set on using this fucking article, let's fucking use it. The screenshot of the article you provided in your video literally explains in the last paragraph how the word woke is being used disapprovingly among political conservative individuals who are considered too politically liberal, especially in relations of issues of race and social justice. And if we go back on the second definition that you are dick sucking, not only does it align with your personal definition of the word woke, because you yourself considered anything far left in that ideology to be woke, but in this definition it encapsulates anything that is considered politically liberal or progressive in the matters of racial and social justice, with the emphasis of how it can be considered unreasonable or extreme. Two arbitrary words based on no objective criteria but personal assessment. Having gay characters in kids shows might be unreasonable or extreme to you, but they're not to me. So yeah, for clarification, woke has two definitions depending on who is using it. And going back to your personal definition of the word woke and how you believe both sides of the political aisle agreed in that definition, the first screenshot you provided to explain the original definition of the word woke literally has a passage within that article that explains how the word woke is currently used by the political left to refer to progressiveness, while those on the political right, aka you, weaponize it as a way to denigrate those who disagree with their belief. So for a nigga who got mad at me for not using every definition of a fucking word, how does it feel that I used your sources that you provided in your video to not only debunk your definition of the word woke, but also provide evidence for my definition and argument?
Wait, did we check that she can get dunked on by her dad?
Dunked on by my dad?
Oh, you gotta get big, Meg.
A charitable man would say you made an honest mistake here. However, I just think you're a retard.
This word has been given such a bad connotation by those people, and because of that, it lost its real meaning.
First of all, the connotations would only be bad if you disagreed with the position that progressive values have no place in our society.
Is that not a position that you currently hold as a far-right conservative, as we've seen for the rest of the literal fucking video?
Second of all, disagreeing with the current definition of a word does not mean that that definition is less real than the original one.
Alex is technically right. Disagreeing how a current definition of a word is being used does not make that definition less real than any other associated definitions.
That would be the case if we were talking about words that are meant to describe material reality, like man and woman, but we're talking about immaterial concepts here, and those change all the time.
Did you feel proud getting off that random trans dick eat? Because definitions of words that describe material reality do change all the time, because our definitions of material reality is limited by our current information surrounding that following topic, and you using man or woman as examples of material realities makes no sense, because men and women are social constructs. What you're referring to are biological sexes such as male and female that are based on chromosomes and anatomy.
So no, the original meaning is not lost. It's just been supplanted by a new meaning.
The new established meaning of the word woke and how it's being used right now has not supplanted or replaced the original definition of that word. Like I said before, a word can have many different definitions. What happened with the word woke is that the word that was once used as a term of endearment within pro-black communities as a sign of being socially conscious has been successfully co-opted by niggas like Alex and was given another definition. Keep in mind, how the word was originally used is still being used today in a positive light within pro-liberal, leftist, and progressive spaces, while also retaining its original integrity within the pro-black radical community. Based on the rightful meaning of the word, what's wrong with something being woke?
Well, even if we go by your definition, it would really depend on what kind of power structures are being critiqued. If a piece of media says, patriarchy bad, nationalism bad, in fact, all forms of hierarchy are bad, and their arguments are terrible, then obviously I'm going to push back against them, because I think each of those things are a net positive for society, and I have the right to defend my views.
And no one, including me, said you didn't have the right to defend your views. And I don't know why you said this.
Well, even if we go by your definition, it would really depend on what kind of power structures are being critiqued.
With my definition that you concede to use for this point, the power structures that are being critiqued are based around societal facts and issues that are tailored around racial and social justice. If that's too much words for you to understand, basically it's anything that is linked to or correlated to the direct mistreatment of marginalized groups of people, like black people, Asian people, gay people, Muslim people, the list goes on. Let's get real. If I were to apply for a job and the employer makes it clear that they don't want to hire me because I'm black, and I told you, the viewer, and you respond with, whoa, that's messed up.
What does that have to do with me not wanting to see gay shit in my cartoon?
Alex, oh my god, I understand you might have been dropped as a baby, but holy shit. Did you already forget you reacting to a video I made discussing where I stand on about the topic of the implementary of wokeness within modern entertainment? A conversation that isn't specifically restricted related to the involvement of having LGBTQ themes within our media. Since you're in dire need of a reminder, I'll give you one. But what exactly am I talking about? Everything. I'm talking about everything. Race representation, race swapping, gender swapping, shows with LGBTQ themes, all that good stuff. So I already made it clear that this video that you're reacting to isn't only going over LGBTQ themes. And it's kind of obvious, as a black person who is more left-leaning, I also want to talk about the racial aspects of it. And I'm just simply giving an example as I go on, firstly talking about the racial aspect of this conversation. And this is more retroactively stupid when you realize for every video on this channel, I made sure to add chapters sectioning off different portions of my videos. I start talking about gay people around the 6-minute mark, so it beats me on why you're wondering why I haven't talked about them so far.
Everyone has your own problems. Just because you can't succeed doesn't mean it's our problem.
Technically, Charlie Kirk is right. You could just work for another company that doesn't hate black people, or if you really want to say, screw the freedom of association, you could just file a discrimination suit against this company.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Two things I need to address. Number one, did you just unironically defended racial discrimination? Let's run that shit back.
Or if you really want to say, screw the freedom of association.
Fun fact, you cannot use the freedom of association to exclude people on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So you're not even screwing the freedom of association, you're just simply upholding your right as a US citizen. And apparently that's something that Alex doesn't fuck with. Kinda strange. And what's the other thing you said?
You could just file a discrimination suit against this company.
This is the prime example we're dealing with a person on the right. Disclaimer, this is my anecdotal experience. Just a series of patterns that I've noticed. Usually when I'm talking with someone on the right, they seem to be more of a surface level thinker. Niggas on the left, they tend to be overthinkers, making everything too deep. Alex is a prime example of a surface level thinker who licks doorknobs for fun because he likes the flavor. Alex is right. You should file a discriminatory lawsuit if you feel like you was discriminated against. But here's the problem. Not everyone has enough time and resources to go through that process. And even if they did, and it's a fact that they were a victim of discriminatory actions, that alone does not guarantee a victory in the court of law. We do not have a perfect legal system, therefore justice isn't always delivered. Celebrities or companies who got away with committing crimes, even though their victims went through the proper legal channels. Even though I still believe that a person should go to the proper legal channels in hopes of actually finding justice the right way, you're still only fixing that individual's problems, not the inherent issue that affects all of us.
Ultimately, it's on you to find employment, nigga. You're not gonna get any reparations from me.
Alex, don't make me laugh. We see your room. I don't think you're in a financial position to give anyone anything. And second, guys, who cares if you are being discriminated against? That's ultimately your fault, says Alex. But for real, let's be honest and look at the current political state of America right now. I'm not saying you can't be a proud American. You can rep red, white, and blue. What I'm saying is that we don't live in a perfect country.
Okay, I agree with you, but what does this have to do with me not wanting to see gay shit in my cartoon?
What a deep, profound, intellectual question, Alex. If you really want to know the answer is this. This has nothing to do with the involvement of gay people within cartoons. As you see in the chapters I clearly listed out in the description, in the chapters that YouTube has properly sectioned out when you're just watching the video regularly, I am simply not at that point. This is the equivalent of watching OG Dragon Ball and wondering why Goku isn't fucking Super Saiyan yet. You are literally struggling to keep up with the structure of my video, which is something I have listed out in the description. Judging how you don't even read your own sources, I'm not surprised. And yet, you're trying to make arguments? Take the hyperbole cock out your mouth and engage the video for what it is. There are system and social discrimination happening right now, both racially and on a gender-specific level.
Yeah, whites and Asians are being discriminated against by certain institutions, and women are being forced to allow men who think they're women to use the same bathrooms and changing rooms as them, so technically you're right, but doesn't this just strengthen my argument that we ought to push back against this progressive shit?
I'm not gonna engage with the examples he provided due to the fact that I'm figuring that this video might be around 2 hours long. But no, Alex, if I were to take your examples at face value and concede that they're right, this does not strengthen your argument on pushing back on progressive ideals, because the whole point of progressiveness is to advocate for people who are being systematically or socially targeted. So it is in our best interest to be aware of these issues for the betterment of everybody.
He says as he's writing off all of the people who are taking issue with progressive shit being in their media.
The nigga just yapped. He didn't even try to contend what I said. All I basically said was the act of involving progressive ideals in our entertainment simply allows historically marginalized groups to finally be heard and seen, which is a fundamentally good thing. If you see someone being wrong, don't you want to make it right? What Alex's response simply boils down to is that he simply doesn't give a fuck. And sorry, Alex, simply not giving a fuck is not an argument.
You can overcome any issue, whether it's systemic or social.
Why are you using Charlie Kirk for your straw man when the voice sounds way more like Donald Trump?
First off, these are not straw mans, these are actual arguments that I've heard within my life. Second, I know these quote-unquote straw mans are accurate because you literally agreed to one earlier. Play it back?
Everyone has your own problems. Just because you can't succeed doesn't mean it's our problem.
Technically, Charlie Kirk is right. Charlie Kirk is right.
One thing, it's a straw man, but you agreed, and not only you agreed, you substantiated on that quote-unquote straw man.
You could just work for another company that doesn't hate black people, or if you really want to say, screw the freedom of association, you could just file a discrimination suit against this company.
So guys, I might not be a
high-level arguer,
but if someone strawmans my argument or position, I'm not gonna agree to it, and I'm surely not gonna substantiate on it. So I'm confused. Alex, was Charlie Kirk right in his responding statement, or was it a straw man? It can't be both. It doesn't work like that. The reason I'm using Charlie Kirk as a stand-in is because I simply do not like that bitch-ass nigga. All I'm gonna say, unlike somebody, I actually woke up on September 11th, 2025. And why does he sound like Trump? I don't know. I had no creative authority on how he was gonna sound. I just needed someone to stay the line. I apologize for my inability to perfectly mimic how your dream man is supposed to sound. Anyways, look, I'm not trying to go back and forth on this topic. I know what I know, and what I know is that we do have systematic and social barriers that are objectively making it harder for marginalized groups to overcome their differences.
Haven't we been over this? I get it. America isn't perfect. Either bring up a new talking point or start building on your premise.
Literally because this country is built upon racist ideologies.
Ah yes, racist ideologies like the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, and the freedom to peaceably assemble. Truly, nothing says racist like decreeing that your subjects have the right to worship whatever religion they want.
Alex, that does not contradict what I said, because all those rights you listed out was originally for white men. So yeah, if our country's foundational rights was only given out to a select group of people based on the premise of race, that's racist. Do I need to bring examples of the 3/5 Compromise Act? Do I need to bring up Plessy versus Ferguson? Alex, you seem so confident listing out the following rights we all share, without leaving important historical context. If America wasn't built on racist ideologies, then why did we eventually have to add the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments? You know, the amendment that helped abolish slavery, helped slaves obtain citizenship, and providing voters protection to those of a different race. And it seems like over time, America have tried to amend their racist history through other systematic change and revolutions such as the Civil Rights Act or DEI inclusions. Alex, if you're so confident that America wasn't found on racist ideologies and practices, do you think it would be a wise decision for a black person to travel 200 years in the past to live amongst that American society? Probably not. If you disagree, you don't know anything about the transatlantic slave system.
First of all, the transatlantic slave trade was originally started by Africans who willingly sold each other off to European colonizers. So does this mean that we have to oppose and tear down black power structures?
First off, did this nigga really use Wikipedia as a source? You know, the one thing all our English teachers told us not to use? And saying that Africans started the transatlantic transatlantic slave trade is heavily flawed and misguided. And even if they did, that doesn't make that Pacific slave trade an example of a black power structure, since that term belonged to black Americans, which were insisted by African Americans who advocated for the economic and political power to simply govern themselves and their following community. And since Google is your best friend, here buddy, so you can keep up. And the reason why it's disingenuous to say that other Africans sold other Africans is because you're implying that these Africans recognize each other as the same monoracial group or ethnic group, in which they didn't. They were simply selling people that they didn't consider to be their own. Saying Africans sold other Africans is like saying white people killed other white people during the Holocaust. Just like in Nazi Germany, if you was Jewish, you was not recognized to be white, even though the average white Jewish person looks phenotypically damn near the same as a regular white/European person. Fun fact, it was actually a Nazi propaganda contest to host who had the most beautiful Aryan baby, and a Ashkenazi Jewish baby won it. And since Alex loved Wikipedia, here it is. And the slave trade was actually started by the Portuguese and Spanish niggas, not the Africans themselves.
Second off, the transatlantic slave trade was ended by the very same white people that you are currently trying to condemn.
Two things. Number one, I never once condemned white people. At most, you can say I condemned racist white people. If me condemning racist white people is the same to you as condemning white people as a whole, that speaks a lot more of your character than mine. And plus, what was that second point?
Second off, the transatlantic slave trade was ended by the very same white people that you are currently trying to condemn.
Okay, we all know that slavery was abolished during the Civil War. So technically, who did help fight for the abolishment of slavery? It was white people, okay. But who also tried to defend it? Also white people. This is how you sound. Hey, little girl who I kidnapped at the age of 5 from their loving, caring parents and kept in my basement for 15 years, you're free now. Even though I was the one who kidnapped you and gave you probably generational trauma, me also freeing you completely absolved me of my previous action.
Really, nigga?
So how about we give them a little fucking credit, huh?
Hey Alex, it doesn't matter how much cum you suck out of that white cock, you're not gonna magically turn white.
Third off, white people were also victimized by the transatlantic slave trade. Just look up the Barbary pirates.
Yes, I was waiting for this part of the video to respond to. So, you might be wondering, who the fuck or who were the Barbary pirates? Were they really white slaves during the transatlantic slave system? So, because of my high intelligence and the power of the internet, I managed to figure out the exact source that Google is providing for Alex's question that he clearly just typed up. And as you see, if you're not a fucking moron, based on the information Alex is giving us, we have to assume that either A, the transatlantic slave trade didn't only target Africans, but also white people. And since Alex loves using Google as a fucking source, let's also try it ourselves. That's odd. It says here that white people were not victims of the transatlantic slave trade. And it said that Pacific trade was exclusively linked to the kidnapping, trafficking, and forced labor of over 12 million African people across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. But it makes it clear, however, white people were in fact captured in other historical slave trades. And it also lists the Barbary slave trade. So it seems like the Barbary slave trade is a different slave system or process of enslavement which is distinct from the Atlantic slave trade. But that can't be. You literally just said this out of your own fat fucking mouth.
Third off, white people were also victimized by the transatlantic slave trade. Just look up the Barbary pirates.
So I did look up the Barbary pirates, and it seems like the Barbary pirates and the white colonizers who were a part of the transatlantic slave trade was operating two different evil acts of slavery. And it gets worse. Your stupid Google response that links a article, I found that article, and it also clarifies that the Barbary slave trade was a distinct operation than the transatlantic slave trade. Hey, when this video is out, worst case scenario for me is that I'm a dumb, stupid libtard who's just wrong about everything. Worst case scenario for you, you are a pseudo-intellectual who lies about the sources he's using that he's clearly not fucking reading. You don't know what the fuck you are talking about. Why the fuck am I consistently using your evidence to debunk your own argument? At the point, play the clip, it's too easy.
Wait, did we check that she can get dunked on by her dad?
dunked on by my dad.
Fourth off, if America really is a terrible place that did horrible things to your ancestors and continues to do horrible things to you, then why would you ever try to argue that it is okay to be proud to be American?
Because, Alex, if you're not brain dead, in which you are, you could understand, yeah, America has done a lot of bad things specifically to my racial group, but America has also done a lot of good things for my racial group. There have been a lot of people in the past who are on the right side of history advocating for people like me to simply exist. And another thing, I'm not even African American, dumbass. I don't expect you to know that, but don't assume that I am simply because I'm being historically accurate to the oppression that mainly African Americans face. Even though I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, I'd rather fight and die for this country, and I'd rather see my country be a better place for people like me. So yes, Alex, it is in fact okay being a proud American, only if you recognize the atrocities we committed and try to move on and be better people.
As you just did a few minutes ago.
I'm not saying you can't be a proud American. You can rep red, white, and blue.
I don't know about y'all, but if I thought that the country I lived in hated me for existing and wanted to destroy my life at every turn, I certainly wouldn't be proud of it. I'd either be trying to start a revolution or I'd be getting the fuck out of there.
I mean, niggas have literally started revolutions, and what a revolution is just a fundamental, radical societal change. And if I'm personally using my platform to start a societal change, even though it's on a smaller scale, I'm still advocating for my belief. I don't give a fuck if I'm changing one person at a time, that's still progress.
Fifth off, what does any of this have to do with me not wanting to see gay shit in my cartoon?
And once again, it all doesn't. Listen, slavery lasted 250 years, segregation only ended 61 years ago. I have met people who remember using a white-only bathroom.
Like, are we gonna get to the main point anytime soon? I thought this video was supposed to answer whether or not wokeness was ruining media. Why do you keep going on and on about slavery and segregation?
It's almost like I went into this video with clear structural integrity, right? I intentionally define what wokeness is. More specifically, I define what being woke is, which is simply the advocacy or awareness of societal discrimination, which includes the suffrage of POC people, which I'm specifically talking about in regards of black people. You even acknowledge that the original meaning of the word woke was made for this intended purpose.
Yes, woke originally meant being conscious of the unjust power structures you live under.
I'm just simply giving historical context of why black people are currently living under unjust societal infrastructures. And the reason this matters in correlation of the entertainment industry, because historically in the past, my people were demonized through the entertainment industry as a way to continue harassment and mistreatment towards black people. Things like blackface and whitewashing. They really want you to believe that this point of America is just ancient history. No, these are recently happening events, at least in a historical sense.
First off, what the fuck does "these are recently happening events in a historical sense" even mean?
There are recent events that happen historically in the context of America's long history of development as a nation. Yeah, I kind of did a word salad to get that out, but you still understand the point I was conveying.
Second of all, who are the conservatives denying that slavery and segregation happened a long time ago?
No specific examples, but the way you niggas act, it seems like you're demeaning the significance of these historical moments, treating it like ancient history and pretending that we're far past it, in which we're not.
Third of all, where are black people being forced to drink from different water fountains or sit at the back of the bus?
Alex, the point I was trying to get across is that there are still some black people right now who are alive who literally grew up under segregations, and discriminatory laws. Meet Joe Ann Allen Boyce, who is the grandmother of late Disney actor Cameron Boyce, who was actually part of the Clinton 12. And the Clinton 12 were the first batch of black kids to successfully integrated into white public schools after the ending of segregation. And when this video was uploaded, she was still alive due to the fact that she passed away December 3rd, 2025. Think about it. She grew up living under segregation, became one of the first black kids to enter an all-white school, and she still managed to outlive Charlie Kirk. And if you're still not keeping up, let's go back to your best friend Google, where we ask a question: are black people who live under segregation still alive? We get a resounding yes. Millions of black Americans who live under legally enforced segregation are still alive today. There are an estimate of 8 to 9 million black Americans from age 60 and older who possesses first-hand memory of Jim Crow era and the civil rights movement. For fuck's sakes, Rosa Parks, the person who's regarded as the mother of the civil rights movement, only died 21 years ago in 2005. Remember, 9/11, a horrible terrorist attack, happened 4 years prior to her death. And just like there's people right now today who suffered from that tragedy, it might as well be a freshly new wound.
I'm sorry, but niggas saying we don't want the Human Torch to be turned black are not trying to keep black people out of cinema.
But you are. Sure, the Human Torch being played by a black actor isn't the best way to race swap a character if the purpose of that casting was to simply provide black people representation on a bigger screen. You being against that means you're against black people being represented on a bigger screen within that specific example.
They simply want Hollywood writers to respect the source material.
Respecting the source material has always been an arbitrary thing that each person, each consumer, has a personal basis for. As long as you're not changing the integral point of the story, I don't give a fuck if you race swap anybody, unless that race swap does go against the integrity of that character. The reality is that 250 years of slavery plus 60 years of segregation against a certain demographic of people will of course do a lot of social damage to a society.
Oh my god, I get it! Slavery bad! Do you really gotta drag this point out for 2 fucking minutes?
Oh no! 2 minutes. It's almost like everything you're doing is completely voluntary and no one is forcing you to respond or even watch this video. But let me guess, you have to respond, right? So what's so wrong with our media using this to convey a message of an important, meaningful meaning?
Yeah, except that modern media isn't focused on pushing messages like slavery bad. It's instead focused on pushing degenerate and harmful ideologies on our society, like transgenderism. These are 2 different things, so either make an argument as to why I should be okay with seeing gay shit in my cartoons, or shut the fuck up.
Alex is just objectively wrong right here. The entirety of modern entertainment is not solely focused on pushing gay or transgender values into our media. My following video after this one was literally a response video to Type 2 under criticisms on Invincible, calling it too woke for having, I shit you not, too many black background characters, despite the show taking place near Chicago.
Consumers just want to see good stories and entertainment without a political agenda.
Well, it doesn't have to lack a political agenda. I'm perfectly fine with stories pushing politics so long as they're A, well written, B, don't push the politics down my throat, and C, are politics that I agree with.
You see how this nigga unironically again agreed with the quote-unquote straw man? It's almost like I was right on the fucking target. But let's look at his stipulations for politics being involved within media.
I'm perfectly fine with stories pushing politics so long as they're A, well written.
Okay, I fuck with the heavy, yes. I am all for good, well-written stories, yes.
B, don't push the politics down my throat.
If anything, A and B are the exact same fucking stipulations, because if the show is well written, the politics wouldn't be forced down your throat, it would be more palatable to understand and engage with.
And C, are politics that I agree with.
So you are the echo chamber, you expose yourself. You as a grown man want to be absolutely babied by the show or movie you're watching instead of being contested. God forbid someone use the same freedom of speech you have to convey a differing opinion. Everything is political. Me drinking water is political. Me jerking off is political. Everything is political in society. Because why? Because society is inherently political.
Okay, you cannot say that everything is political and then get mad at other niggas for not wanting to see certain political messaging in their media.
Again, you're not engaging with the words I'm saying out of my mouth. I said that everything is political as an argument to those who don't want to see any political message whatsoever in the shows and movies they want to watch. What you said is that there are some group of people who don't want to see a certain politic or ideology being displayed within the shows and movies that they watch. Little did you know, the people that I'm arguing against will be also against the shit you're advocating for. They want no politics, including the politics you fuck with.
From our perspective, everything is political, and therefore, we want to push back against movies, shows, and books that push political messaging that we think is abhorrent. What's the actual issue there?
The problem is what you specifically said earlier, when you said that it has to be well written and the politics has to be something that you agree with. Therefore, if it's still well written, but it's a politics that you don't agree with, you'll be against it. You're mad because it's not your agenda, your narrative being spread. You simply just want control. And by the way, you people wanting media to be less woke is also political.
Yes, I know. Are you gonna make an actual argument now, or are you just gonna keep rambling like a madman?
Says the madman who was rambling against points I never made and making arguments that have no relevance to what I'm saying. And remember, every source you use so far were sources that I used against you to debunk your own argument. I'm going to get this off my chest. A show being woke doesn't make it a bad show. A bad show is bad because it's just bad.
That's true. A show being woke doesn't necessarily make it bad on its own, but it will make a show less enjoyable to those who disagree with that sort of messaging.
Sure, you don't have to agree with every message a show or movie or even a book is trying to convey to the audience, but if it's well written, well executed, who gives a fuck? You're a grown-ass man. You can handle a show not hating on two gay characters kissing.
And I've yet to hear an actual argument as to why we ought not be allowed to push back against that sort of messaging. Also, that rule isn't an absolute. There are plenty of shows out there that are bad because they're woke. See my retrospective of Magical Girl Friendship Squad for evidence of that.
What the fuck even is that show? I have no idea what this nigga's referencing. Maybe I will take him up on that offer. And even then, right, I still stand by my original statement. A show being woke is not enough of a qualifier to claim it's bad. You can have woke shows with good writing, which are good, and you can have woke shows with bad writing, which are bad. What Alex is implying is that this show doesn't have bad writing, it's just woke, therefore it's bad, which doesn't make any fucking sense. Look at HBO Max's Velma. I completely despise Velma. I made a whole deep dive here on the channel about it. Out of all the criticisms I had for Velma, I will never say to make it better, every main character had to be the original race.
I agree, the characters being the races that they're supposed to be wouldn't have made the show that much better, but there being other problems in the show that are much worse than the race swapping doesn't mean that said race swapping is A, not woke, and B, totally fine.
No, the race swapping was woke, and it was unnecessary. I was against that even in my original critique of Velma.
Like, I'm still waiting for an argument here, buddy. These are all just declarative statements.
Because in actuality, that doesn't solve anything about the show's problems.
Well, that would solve the whole Mindy Kaling only made this show as a shallow vanity project talking point, so there's that.
If we take what Velma is as a character within her show and just make her white, the problem still lingers.
Again, just because the race swapping isn't the biggest problem in the series doesn't mean that it's no longer a problem.
Alex, I'm still saying it's a problem, but it's not the sole fucking problem. Velma being Indian isn't the problem with her character writing. It's the fact that she's conceptually a different person than the Velma we're used to. I'm all for reimagining characters, but Velma was just shit in all fucking aspects, with no redeeming qualities within her writing or how she's even acted within her own show. You calling Velma woke as an explanation on why it's bad is at most a surface level critique that doesn't give the proper shame and humiliation this show deserved.
Hell, People hated this show's version of Fred too, even though he stayed white. Do you seriously think that people would like his character more if they turned him black?
Again, I don't know what point are you arguing against. I already concede the notion that Velma is quote-unquote woke slop and is objectively a bad show.
No, they would obviously hate him more.
I actually have to disagree on this take. The only reason why people may hate the black version of this Fred more is literally because they're just racist. Hear me out. Fred's entire narrative purpose is to simply shit on white people. That was the show's commentary. If you're a white person watching this video and you're inherently against race swapping, would you rather prefer a character whose sole purpose is for the writers to shit on white straight men, or a reimagining of that same character but black, which will of course strip away that commentary? If you are hyper fixated on her race, you're the problem. That's a deeper issue.
Yeah, man. My deeper issue is that I don't like it when adaptations of established properties disrespect the source material by needlessly race swapping a few characters in order to pander to minority groups while constantly putting down the few white characters on the show.
If you're a Scooby-Doo fan and you actually watched Reboot, them race swapping the main characters was the least of the show's problems. That's why I bring up the point of, if you just kept them original races, the show would still suck. My favorite Scooby-Doo series was, of course, Mysteries Incorporated, where Scooby was confirmed to be a descendant of a fucking alien. You can fuck around with the original source material in an attempt for a better show. And also, Be Cool Scooby-Doo was also fire as fuck, only because I found that actually hilarious.
If you take issue with what I'm saying, then provide a counter. Simply saying, well, I think you're the problem, Chud, does not refute my point.
My point is that if Velma was originally white in a shitty fucking show, how much better would that white character be? Not that much. She will still have the same personality issues that the show has. All about her personality, her dynamics, nothing that has to do with race.
That's not necessarily true. Race does play a part in your social interactions. Unless you mean to tell me that if a black man wanders into a Ku Klux Klan meeting, they're gonna be welcomed in with open arms.
Holy false comparison fallacy. You know what I meant. I was talking about narrative dynamics and relationship. Oh my god. Velma was not a bitch because she was Indian. She was just a bitch. Sure, the social category you're put in at birth will in fact influence how you live your life, but what I originally referred to is how your race is not a pure indication and how someone will act. If there was a black person and he was loud, rude, and obnoxious, do you think him magically being white would change that? No, because there are also white people who share those same traits.
Should race be the only thing about you that people care about? No, but it is going to play a part in how you are perceived by others. Hate crimes as a concept would not be a thing if it didn't.
And hate crimes only exist because of unchecked constant bigotry, the same bigotry that these woke shows are trying to combat. If you really think it does, stay a fucking clown.
Man, I sure wish I could dismiss all of my opponents by simply labeling them clowns. The world would be a much better place.
There are so many popular shows, but like your standard is nothing more just DEI bullshit.
Yeah, and your point is?
Look at The Boys, a political commentary on capitalism within America by using superheroes as a device to tell their stories.
Oh man, you could not have picked a worse example for this point, because plenty of right-wing and or centrist reviewers have torn this show apart over the years, with a lot of criticism being directed at its poor handling of its political messages. This would be like me saying, so what? You guys think Steven Universe is woke too?
Alex, you already exposed yourself for being a right-wing loser who can only enjoy shows that cater to his fucking worldview. So you see how you didn't provide a specific argument that you had over The Boys, other than the fact that you called in question its political commentary, in which you didn't substantiate or provide an example of. All you did was dick suck 4 random videos from creators I know nothing about. That's not an argument. This is the exact equivalent of someone saying Omni-Man beats Bardo Bardock because Death Battle said so. And at the time of that video, picking The Boys was absolutely the right choice, since at that time, The Boys was a successful, popular, woke TV show, which is my point. I love using The Boys as a prime example of why race swapping can actually work. You take a look at the cast members in the original source material, they race swapped every fucking character, gender swapped damn near everyone, and changed the integral part of the source material in the name of spreading wokeness.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why the show sucks.
Alex, be so fucking for real. I don't care how much you claim to not like this show. If this show was a one-to-one adaptation of the fucking comics, would it be better or for worse? So please let me know. Especially how you are on this tirade about how you hate degeneracy being pushed in TV shows. The Boys comics is the definition of degeneracy.
Alright. Season 1 was okay, but after that point, the series nosedived in quality. Primarily because of the wokeness that ALR is currently defending.
This nigga is so obviously full of shit, it probably watched The Boys through fucking TikTok clips. Because what do you mean it nosedived after season 1? Season 2 was a great follow-up to the hype of season 1, and season 3 is the best season of The Boys, and I will die on that hill. And hot take, I actually liked season 4. We don't talk about season 5.
If you want specifics on this, then go and watch Big Bungie's 2 videos on it, because they are the definitive takedowns of that show as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, more appeal to authority. If Big Bungie comes out, has a fucking epiphany, and said he was wrong about those 2 videos he made on The Boys, will you magically suck his dick again and he said The Boys is good?
But even if I were to grant you this point, this still isn't a defeater for my position. Why am I not allowed to criticize political messaging that I disagree with just because it's in a show that's well written and or popular? It doesn't make any sense.
If only that was my position. My position is that just because a show is woke doesn't always make it inherently bad. You can criticize it, but just saying it's woke is simply not enough. And it worked. The show is so in your face with their leftist propaganda that their whole last season was about Homelander using the dumb idiot conservative party to boost his control over America.
Once again, even if I agreed that the show was awesome, why does that mean that I am no longer allowed to critique its political messaging?
Again, you can critique it. I'm just giving an example of a good show that is woke.
Like, imagine if I made a cartoon that had a gripping story, relatable characters, rich world building, and a killer soundtrack. But the overarching message of it was, racism is good and blacks need to be enslaved again.
Again, with another extreme false comparison. You're comparing slavery to simple political disagreements.
Are you really going to tell me that my show's political messaging wouldn't hinder your enjoyment of it as a black man, and you therefore wouldn't call it out?
Yeah, it would, because that political messaging directly affects my livelihood. Are you saying that having gay people simply exist within TV shows have the exact same effect and implication as being pro-slavery in a show?
Really?
Let's take a look at another Amazon product, Invincible. They made Mark Grayson Asian for no fucking reason, and I love it.
No. I'm not letting that one go. While I haven't read much of the Invincible comics, I do know that Mark's ethnicity was never explicitly stated in them. His dad is an alien, and his mother looked like this. So to say that the showrunners of the cartoon turned him Asian out of nowhere and for no reason is disingenuous.
Alex is 100% right, because the real reason Robert Kirkman, series creator of Invincible, race swap Mark is to provide actual Asian representation. Keep in mind, this 100% was a race swap. Like Alex said, Mark's and Debbie's race was not confirmed. They're Asian in the show, and they're not Asian in the comics. That is by definition a race swap. He was literally called a token Asian person within his own show.
Their game.
I know. I'm impressed.
Well. It's my old friends, token diversity and gender stereotype.
Okay, and this proves what exactly? They called him a token in the show, so this means he must have been white in the comics originally. What kind of stupid-ass logic is that?
It's the fact that the show is trying to make it apparent that Mark is in fact Asian, unlike his comic book counterpart. Now look how popular Invincible really is. Look how popular Mark is as an Asian superhero.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
Fuck all that. Let's compare Mark against other established superheroes like Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. It's not crazy to say that he's just as popular as them right now.
Alright dude, calm down. Invincible is popular, but he's not that popular. Hell, a lot of people didn't even know who he was until the cartoon came out.
Alex, am I big upping the comic book series or the cartoon? My point is the cartoon is not only successful, but extremely popular right now.
And not a lot of people are talking about it anymore.
Again, you're just flat out wrong. Season 2, Season 3, and especially Season 4 were not only highly anticipated, but widely watched. Amazon is one of the biggest streaming companies right now, and Invincible is one of their biggest shows. By that logic, they're automatically popular.
Sure, there's a few video essayists making videos about specific aspects of the show, but it has long since stopped being culturally relevant.
The internet is literally flooded with Invincible memes. I don't know what you're talking about. And again, what's your obsession with using other YouTubers and what they say as a metric of how a show is doing? There's probably some Asian kid looking at Mark the same way that black kids look at Black Panther, and that's a wonderful thing. Is that not a good thing?
Okay, who are the conservatives saying that these characters shouldn't exist? Up until very recently, nobody had a problem with the Black Panther. People only started to have a problem with him once writers started using him to push leftist messaging.
No, let's rephrase that. Conservatives didn't care about Black Panther until they realized they was not the one being pandered to anymore. Based on what you said earlier, I think this lines up.
This is ignoring the fact that you can easily look up and relate to characters who don't share the same skin color as you.
Breaking fucking news. You can relate to characters who aren't one-to-one representation of yourself on screen. No fucking shit. Any black fan would tell you that we're forced to relate to characters who don't look like us. Why do you think Piccolo being black is like the biggest meme in Dragon Ball Z?
I mean, you said earlier that skin color doesn't matter and has no influence on your personality or character.
Yeah, it doesn't. I'm not a racist. Out of all the criticisms I had for Velma, I will never say to make it better, every main character had to be the original race. Because in actuality, that doesn't solve anything about the show's problems. If we take what Velma is as a character within her show and just make her white, the problem still lingers. If you are hyper fixated on her race, you're the problem. That's a deeper issue. What about her personality, her dynamics? Nothing that has to do with race. And if you really think it does, stay a fucking clown.
So why should there be more Asian or black representation?
To simply allow viewers to have a deeper, intimate connection with the characters they're viewing. It's that shared cultural experience that allows a person to have a deeper connection.
If the character is well written and admirable, then it shouldn't matter what his skin color is, right?
You're definitely right, but it also helps if that character also looks like you or share the same lived experience as you. Why do you think the Boondocks is popular within the black community? Yeah, it's because it's a good, well-written show with valid political commentary, but the biggest key to its success is because, fun fact, they're black.
Aren't these kids being racist by your own logic because they're gravitating to these characters solely due to their skin color?
No, because they're not being discriminatory.
But you guys are taking away from us white. What about our white kids? Who should look up to?
First off, you guys are literally overrepresented in media.
Yeah, that's because, and I don't know if you know this, ALR, but White people make up the majority of our population. That's why they have the most representation in our media.
First off, I'm gonna give a nitpick. Why the fuck are you giving a population statistic from 6 years ago? I made this video in 2025. Can you at least use a 2024 or 2025 statistic? You couldn't look up US racial demographic 2024, 2025? And it's very easy to debunk this argument. Women outnumber men in the United States of a population, yet there are far less women-centered stories compared to men. And usually when a studio or company try to put a woman character within the same spotlight as a male character, that product or project gets hit with a lot of pushback from your side. And of course, living in a white majority country, there gonna be a lot of white characters within our entertainment industry. All people like me are advocating for is not for less white characters, but for simply better POC characters.
This is like complaining that Nigerians are overly represented in Nigerian media, and that we therefore need to take Nigerian characters and turn them white so that the marginalized white minority groups can feel properly represented.
Absolutely not, because unlike any other country on the planet, America always have prided themselves of being a ambiguous racial group despite having a clear mass majority. Have conservatives forgot that America has always been referred as a melting pot of different ethnic ideals and culture? Our media should reflect that. One of America's pillar of strength is diversity. And at the moment, a few characters get race swapped, especially ones whose identity aren't even tied to their race, you cry about it on Twitter.
Yeah, like all of these other examples that I'm not listing.
Now you're just being intentionally dense. If you want an example so bad, fine. April O'Neil. She doesn't have to be white because her core aspect of her character is that she's one of the only human friends of the turtles.
And wait a goddamn minute, you're crying your ass off in this video right now. You can't be calling us the brain-dead losers when you're complaining about other people complaining.
And also, what does it mean to have characters whose identities aren't tied to their race? I mean, you just got done explaining to us that it's good to have admirable characters of different races in our media so that viewers who share the same race can look up to them and feel represented.
You see, Alex, you was almost there, but you choose to dick eat. I actually have no idea why you asked this question.
And also, what does it mean to have characters whose identities aren't tied to their race?
When I say it's possible for a character's identity to not be tied in their race, I'm talking about how the story itself is using them. A good example is simply Amber. She was white in the comics, but white in the show. Why? Because she doesn't have to be white for her character to still work. The purpose of Amber is to literally be Mark's setup girlfriend until Eve. There's probably some Asian kid looking at Mark the same way that black kids look at Black Panther, and that's a wonderful thing. Is that not a good thing?
If that's the case, this implies that a character's identity, and by extension the viewer's identity, is tied, at least in part, to their race, and thus it does matter what their race is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be making an argument that relies on race mattering to the viewers.
Oops.
Right now, Alex is trying to make the argument since that a character is already being perceived by their race from that same viewer, that specific viewer being racially in line with that character makes it so that character's integral core identity is contingent on their race, which is not true. Because my original argument stems from how the story, the narrative, is using that character. There doesn't have to be this deep justification on why a character's race swapped.
And you're going to contradict yourself in 3, 2, 1.
The goal of providing proper representation is enough. It'll always be enough.
Dude, did you even look over your own script? You just applied a deep justification to a practice that you just got done claiming doesn't have one.
It's not deep, it's just a simple grand gesture. But are you gonna explain otherwise?
Stupid! You're so stupid!
I guess not.
By the way, lazy race swaps will never count as proper representation.
I actually agree. Velma was a lazy race swap, so she shouldn't be a proper representation of an Indian person.
Sorry, nigga, I ain't buying that.
Oh, so he's not gonna explain his clear arbitrary standard to what is a lazy race swap or what is a good race swap. Okay.
Yeah, but what about gay people?
Yeah, that transition really needed to be 15 seconds long, man. The pacing of the video would have been utterly destroyed if it had been any shorter.
Yeah, I'll give him that. That transition was way too long, but then again, at least we're at Alex's most anticipated part of the video, where we talk about gay people. Look, I'm not gay, but I do feel comfortable saying that gay people or any other person identifying under the LGBTQ+ community deserve to be represented within our media.
And you are gonna provide an argument for why that should be the case, aren't you? Also, by qualifying that he himself isn't gay, ALR is making the implication that gay people are the only ones allowed to argue for their own self-interests.
No, I'm not. You just made that up.
Like, how do you expect gay people to achieve legal equality if you have to be gay before you can advocate for their rights?
Again, I never made that distinction or insinuation. I'm just clarifying the fact that I'm not gay. Like, is it really a big deal that there's some LGBTQ themes within our shows? Is that really problematic?
Yes, because homosexuality is sexually degenerate, and I don't want kids to be shown such things.
Okay, that's your claim. How can you prove that? The reality is that they do exist. There's nothing you can do about it.
So? Pedophiles exist too. Should we start putting pedophiles in cartoons?
No, because pedophilia is actual sexual degeneracy due to the fact that it boils down to predation of a child and pervert-like tendencies. Being gay is no different than being straight. But a pedophile or a predator ultimately is causing harm to that particular child. So when we're talking about gay people or any other non-straight relationship, and I believe that their existence is not inherently problematic.
Well, I don't care about what you believe. I care about what is.
Two things. You do care what I believe because you're reacting to a video I made about my opinion. And second, you said this.
Because homosexuality is sexually degenerate, and I don't want kids to be shown such things.
We did the exact same things, but with opposing opinions. I believe homosexuality is not inherently wrong, and you believe the opposite.
So either start making an argument, or go back to picking cotton.
Wow, what a funny and creative joke.
Cause I'm getting real sick and tired of these non-answers.
Without using any religious basis, what's the problem of a gay person existing in real life or in our TV shows?
Well, for one, homosexuality is an inherently unhealthy lifestyle that will lead to an increased risk of STDs and other physical ailments like incontinence.
First thing, saying that being gay is an inherent unhealthy lifestyle because it leads to higher rates of STDs is disingenuous due to the fact that that's only the case because of behavioral practices such as not wearing proper protection during sexual activities. The main reasons niggas wear condoms is to prevent a child being born. A gay person doesn't have that fear, so it leads to them having more unprotected sex. Because at the end of the day, unprotected sex, no matter who's engaging in it, leads to higher rates of STDs. If a straight man had sex with 10 women within the same month compared to a gay man having sex with 2 men within the same month, who is more likely to contract the STD? And to contest your point on gay sex leads to higher rates of incontinence, which is just bowel or bladder control issues that can be caused by anal sex. But then again, anal sex is not exclusive to gay people. Straight people also practice anal sex. And as I'm learning more about incontinence within the gay community, it turns out anal sex, when practiced safely, does not inherently cause long-term damage. However, you may face issues if you do this activity frequently, just like any other activity. Meaning, if a gay couple practice anal sex within moderation, they will suffer no long-term problems.
For two, there's the whole issue of surrogacy, where gay couples will literally pay a woman to give birth to a child that was made from one of the two men's DNA and then take it away from her, which is just a nicer form of slavery. You are literally buying humans.
Is this nigga serious? Go fuck yourself.
The way that Alex is presenting surrogacy seems like it's only for homosexual couples. No, surrogacy can be a valid pathway to parenthood for all couples who can't conceive a child, either if they have health complication with pregnancy or who are simply infertile. Remember, there are some men and women who can't naturally produce a child. And the fact that you genuinely believe that surrogacy is slavery is actually beyond fucking stupid. What do you think adoption is, Alex? Do you think adoption is also wrong because you're essentially buying a person, you fucking idiot? Alex, I know you're an NBA fan. Do you think two teams trading away their players is the equivalent of human trafficking?
You would think that the guy who has been whining about slavery for 5 minutes wouldn't be supporting a practice like this.
It's because a practice like this is not slavery. How the hell are you a grown-ass man who is quote-unquote politically aware and you can't conceptualize slavery? Saying that surrogacy is slavery is like saying a 18-year-old is a predator for flirting with a 17-year-old.
For 3, homosexuality is a genetic dead end. And the more that we normalize it, the less and less human beings are going to be around. Now, I don't know about you, but I rather like my species, and I want to see it continue. I think that our existence is a net positive, don't you?
Alex, I don't think you realize this. You can't say homosexuality is a genetic dead end after providing a method that allows same-sex couples to have children. Remember this?
There's the whole issue of surrogacy, where gay couples will literally pay a woman to give birth to a child that was made from one of the two men's DNA and then take it away from her.
And this whole genetic dead end argument makes no sense due to the fact there's a lot of straight people who could have kids but simply choose not to.
There are more reasons, but I don't want to drag the video on for too long, so let's continue.
And I'm not talking only about adult shows. The way I see it, if you're comfortable enough to display a heterosexual couple on a kid's show, why not a homosexual couple?
That's simple, because one is healthy, normal, and typically not sexualized in the way that gay couples are.
A gay couple is not inherently more sexualized than a straight couple. That makes no fucking sense. And plus, a homosexual relationship is not inherently more unhealthy than a heterosexual one. According to Alex, a 40-year-old man dating a 13-year-old teenage girl is more healthy than two 20-year-old men engaging in a homosexual relationship. Because, like it or not, Alex, the first relationship I did describe is a heterosexual one. Because, so to tell you, your kids finding out gay people exist isn't gonna magically turn them gay. It's simply not how shit works.
Nah, that's pure cope, dude. By that logic, we shouldn't be having any standards for what messaging we put in children's media. If you tell a kid that rape is good, that's not gonna magically turn them into a rapist.
Alex, once again, this is another false comparison fallacy. My argument is the simple existence or knowledge that gay people exist is not gonna turn your child into a gay person because sexualities do not operate like that. For example, we both know pedophilia exists. Are you a pedophile now because of that information? No.
Sorry, my nigga, but I've heard far too many horror stories of children being pulled further and further into sexual degeneracy because said degeneracy was subtly, and in some cases not so subtly, pushed upon them in children's spaces and media. So I'm dismissing this argument entirely.
This nigga really just said bullshit and moved on. Because, right, most gay people have straight parents, meaning that they was probably raised with a certain idea of what love is, how it will be reciprocated between two consenting parties. So if they grew up with the idea that a heterosexual couple is the idea of love and romance, them becoming gay is a clear indicator that them seeing it is not what caused it.
Yeah, but them seeing it being celebrated in our culture is going to encourage them to embrace that sexual deviancy, which is bad for the reasons I gave earlier.
You gave no proper reasons on why homosexuality is bad. And this celebration of homosexuality is just the stopping of their persecution. I don't think we should criminalize people for being gay.
And I could make this exact same argument for pedophiles. So I ask again, why haven't we been putting more pedophiles in our cartoons?
You cannot make this argument work for pedophiles because, like I said before, pedophilia leads to the direct intentional harm of children. You just want to defend pedophiles.
Why don't we start teaching children that it's okay to be a pedophile? Oh god, that's gonna get clipped out of context, isn't it?
I graduated high school 3 years ago and I have friends from high school who are gay. I got some friends in middle school who I still talk to who are also gay, or at least not straight. And unless these motherfuckers are just conning me and this is just some big old troll campaign against me, you can be young and not straight. It's not a big deal. It's not that deep.
Okay, let's see if we can apply this sort of logic to other things. When I was a kid, I liked to set people on fire. I wasn't raised to be a pyromaniac, I just had an innate burning desire to grab a match, light it, and then set the nearest person ablaze. I don't know why you conservatives are so opposed to my behavior. Burning people alive isn't that big of a deal.
Again, Alex, you have yet to provide an actual good reason against homosexualities. Instead, you're just comparing it to actual abhorrent things. I'm Catholic, but I don't hold everybody in the same regards of my religion. That's not fair. Because who the fuck am I? I'll be damned if a Muslim nigga tell me that I can't eat pork because he can't eat pork.
Alright dude, you are a giant hypocrite. Because you have spent this entire video telling people not to do things that offend your sensibilities. In this case, bitching about there being gay shit in our cartoon.
Me telling someone to not spread hate is not me trying to restrict their life.
So either it's alright to tell people how they should live their lives, or it's not. You cannot have it both ways.
You literally can have it both ways. It's just depending on the certain activity or action we're talking about. What do you think we live in a free country means? People like this are always trying to force a black and white mindset. There are certain things you can do in your life that I may not agree, but I will still advocate for you to be able to do it depending for what it is. For example, I don't like K-pop, but I'm for someone else to enjoy that genre of music. We live in a very diverse world, so why can't our entertainment reflect that?
Yeah, why shouldn't we be making media that says it's alright to be a pedophile, or a serial killer, or a rapist? In fact, why should we bother moderating children's content at all? We should just let them watch whatever the hell they want. Oh, that movie has an excessive amount of gore, profanity, and sex? Well, I'm sure that little Timmy can handle watching it. After all, the world is a very diverse place, and he'll be all the better for being exposed to all of these things at such a young age.
Gay people exist in real life, so I don't care if they exist in some kid show.
So his ultimate argument for why we should be okay with sexually degenerate shit being shown to our children is, well, gay people exist in real life. Wow, I never thought about it like that, man. Suddenly, all of my core political and social beliefs have been flipped on their head. If only everyone had your level of wisdom.
Also, phrases like, "this isn't a big deal," and "I personally don't care about this," are both an appeal to triviality, which is a strong contender for my least favorite logical fallacy.
I didn't commit this fallacy due to the fact that I substantiated my claims with reasoning you just simply didn't agree with.
Seriously, if I had the power to ban people from committing this fallacy, I would absolutely do it, because I'm getting sick and fucking tired of hearing this nonsense being continuously trotted out. I don't care that you don't care about the stuff I'm criticizing or the arguments I'm making. Your personal indifference does not render my point moot. Please stop pretending like it does. Besides, you're lying anyways. If you really didn't care about gay shit being in our media, or about people complaining about gay shit being in our media, you wouldn't be making this video in the first place. So please shut up.
Like I said before, black and white mentality alert. Yes, I personally do not care for gay characters within kids shows, but I do care for the betterment of marginalized groups.
But the woke mob is trying to convert our kids with their leftist agenda.
No, it's called creating and accepting an environment for all people.
Yeah, you can phrase it in whatever kind of flowery language that you want, but you still haven't refuted Charlie's point.
I literally did. Again, it's not a straw man if you agree with the point, and second of all, there's no malicious agenda being pushed.
And for the millionth time, why aren't we doing this same thing for pedophiles and rapists?
At this point, you just love pedophiles, man. So with creating that environment, we see an uproar of people identifying with that way of life, since they're not ashamed of being who they are. Plus, you just sound slow.
Nigga, the structure of that entire sentence made no goddamn sense. And on top of that, you slurred your words so much that you may as well have had a dick in your mouth. Yet you're calling us slow?
Yeah, because that structure of that sentence was perfectly fucking fine, you idiot.
Now that is irony.
And even if we ignore that, you still have yet to provide an argument for how this somehow isn't a liberal agenda, or how I, as someone who opposes homosexuality, should be okay with this.
And you have not provided a reason for a person like me who support homosexuality to condemn it.
If we normalize this, we're going to see an uptick in people who are openly identifying as gay, because they won't be ashamed of it anymore. Okay, and that suddenly means that being pro-gay isn't progressive, and that putting pro-gay messaging in our kids' shows isn't pushing an agenda?
Because being gay isn't wrong, and people should be proud for who they are.
Connect the dots for me here, because I cannot follow your train of logic.
You just want to hate gay people. That's it. There is no logic behind your reasoning. Think about it, a kid watches a gay character, now he's gay. I have never seen the opposite happening. Why? Because it's not true.
Well, I myself am the perfect example of the opposite happening.
Guys, I'ma need y'all to lock the fuck in. I said this. Think about it, a kid watches a gay character, now he's gay. I have never seen the opposite happening. I said straight kids don't turn gay after seeing a gay character on screen because the opposite doesn't happen. So the opposite has to be a gay kid turning straight after seeing a straight character. Therefore, Alex the Critic just confessed to being a repressed, closeted homosexual. The nigga is DL.
I was exposed to tons of pro-gay propaganda while I was growing up. King of the Hill was, and still is, one of my favorite shows of all time, and it had an entire subplot about Dale learning that his father is gay and that he should accept him for who he is. Yet guess what? I grew up to be anti-gay anyways.
Congratulations, that has no relevance to the shit I was saying.
That aside, I haven't personally seen this happen is not a valid line of reasoning. I haven't personally been raped, nor have I seen anybody be raped. Does this suddenly mean that rape is a good thing?
Most of my gang fuck with Steven Universe, a show about literal lesbian space rocks, but most of my niggas are straight.
Okay, I get it. Not everybody who watches pro-gay propaganda is going to become gay themselves. That's not the point.
First off, they're not propaganda, and second of all, that's my point, idiot.
The point is that this sort of messaging is going to normalize homosexuality and thus lead it to proliferating throughout our society, which is bad. Besides, Didn't you just get done saying that this sort of messaging is going to push gay kids into being open about their sexual orientation?
But the woke mob is trying to convert our kids with their leftist agenda.
No, it's called creating and accepting an environment for all people. So with creating that environment, we see an uproar of people identifying with that way of life, since they're not ashamed of being who they are.
So which is it? Do these shows have no effect on how kids behave when it comes to their sexual orientation, or do they?
They do have an effect on the kids watching the show, but not in the way you're thinking of. They're not making or forcing straight kids to be gay. They're just simply allowing kids who are already gay to exist. Look at Our House. Most people don't like the show because how loose it's bi, even though Steven Universe literally paved the way of having more LGBTQ themes within kids shows.
Okay, just because it's been done before doesn't mean that people can't still have a problem with it. By this logic, you can't get mad at white people for the transatlantic slave trade because Africans were the ones who started it.
Again, no they didn't. Like, God forbid a person from their community try to create a show for their people giving good representation. That's why me personally, I can never be mad at the creators of these shows.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for an argument, nigga.
Rebecca Sugar is non-binary, and Dana Trans, sorry if I pronounced that name wrong, is bi, and both have the merit and resumes to create amazing shows. I'm going off top of my head, but Rebecca Sugar previously worked on Adventure Time, and Dana worked on Gravity Falls. So they're clearly talented, so why are niggas hating?
Because even if I were to grant that these people are talented storytellers who are able to use their talents to subtly push leftist messaging in their cartoons, you still have not answered why I don't have the right to push back against that messaging if I disagree with it.
Because you provided no real argument or evidence to condemn it in the first place, Alex.
You haven't even addressed why I'm wrong for disagreeing with it.
Funny because you haven't even addressed why you're right. Because it's funny, it's always don't change our characters, make your own, but you people are still mad when they're making new characters.
Yeah, wow. It's almost as if the problem here is with the messaging of these shows, you fucking monkey. Let me call back to my Magical Girl Friendship Squad reviews for a second. Have I ever complained about Alex being black or Daisy being whatever race she's supposed to be? Of course not, because they're original characters. Therefore, I take no issue with their skin color. What I do take issue with is that the show is pro-abortion, pro-feminism, pro-communism, and pro-sexual degeneracy. Are you ever going to explain why I shouldn't take an issue with any of those messages? Or are you just gonna keep morally grandstanding me?
Again, Alex, your entire video is literally you morally grandstanding me. The only difference is that I actually provided evidence for what I'm talking about. After more of Alex's mindless dribble, he goes on to repeat earlier talking points that I already addressed and debunked and start strawmanning my original arguments. But what I do want to address is this last thing he said.
Like, I know that this video was supposed to be a more general summary of ALR's takes about these various culture war issues, but don't you think he'd want to save his strongest arguments for a catch-all video like this?
No, I will not use my strongest argument in a video that's supposed to be a general idea on where I stand. That makes no fucking sense when I literally admitted in the opening stretch of the video that I will make follow-up videos going deeper on these following topics. Now for my final thoughts on Alex's quote-unquote response video. When it comes to my original video, I do admit I was too broad and vague, and I could have definitely made more concrete arguments. And my main issue is that I went about formatting my arguments with general information that people on the left would take at face value without considering someone like Alex who would take every argument I provide and use the most bad faith interpretations. But I do feel satisfied in the fact that I consistently debunked Alex not only with his arguments but with actual evidence and reasoning. The fact that all his sources boil down to simple Google searches and Wikipedia is embarrassing. interesting, and the fact that I went about actually using the sources that Google was trying to cite, ultimately finding out that his exact sources was disagreeing with him, makes it all the more funnier. And Alex, I have one more final message to you. I know you think I'm a dumbass, but I think you're a troglodyte, and if you're so confident in your ability to break down my arguments, I want to see it live on display. So I'm challenging you on a debate where we can either talk about the following topics discussed in our videos. And to my audience, I am sorry for this long, unexpected video of hell. So until next time, we will actually do a little reviewing around here. Peace out.